Final Fantasy X. If you've clicked on this video, you've probably heard of this game before. If not, and you don't want any spoilers, then click off the video, go play the damn game, and come back. Now, please allow me to do my best to explain to you my story of one of the greatest games I've ever played. This is my Final Fantasy X story. For me, it all started with a different game in the series, Final Fantasy XII. This did not start my love of Final Fantasy. Now, before I get any hate, I understand why people love the game. I just don't think it was the best way to start playing the franchise, for me personally. For one, I had absolutely no clue what I was doing, where I had to go, who I had to talk to. I wasn't into RPGs at the time, but I wanted to be. Even so, I still attempted to rush through dialogue and skip cutscenes if I could. I just didn't have understanding of what RPGs really are yet. So after playing for a couple of hours, my time with Final Fantasy XII was done. For now. I will eventually be going back to it with the Zodiac Remaster. Please stay calm. With this lackluster experience in mind, I assumed the next game in the series, the latest game at the time, would be better. This, of course, being Final Fantasy XIII. Now, again, I know this may upset a few of you out there, but this game didn't take my fancy at the time either. However, I have played some Final Fantasy XIII since then, mainly due to my brother's recommendation, and I will eventually be finishing that game. Now, with all of these previous failed attempts to really get into Final Fantasy, I was at a loss. Oddly, I didn't ever actually look up which were the best or worst in the series beforehand. I just dove straight into what I thought was. Fast forward a couple of years, and I was in a local game shop. This place had everything you could think of, new and old. The only time I've ever seen an Atari Jaguar was in this place. But the thing that stood out to me the most was a copy of Final Fantasy X on PlayStation 2. This moment, to me, is where it all began. I was so excited when I got it, and to be honest, I'm not too sure why. You'd think my previous attempts at the series would have stopped this. I didn't know what I was in for. It could be a complete waste of time, but I knew I wanted to try. After the first day, I played for around 5 hours straight. By this point, I had learned to talk to NPCs, roam around, find treasure, and to absolutely immerse myself in the game. Different from the last games for sure, it was a brand new feeling to me. It just felt as though I had fallen into something special here, and I couldn't wait to see what else it would bring. Holy shit, was I not ready for this? Not in the slightest. I had to Google how to beat him. I didn't even think about taking out the healers first, because I had just such tunnel vision on kicking his ass. It started to dawn on me that this was all still very new to me at this point. So let me explain. I got a little further than this fight. I can't remember exactly where. It was another boss battle. Not this prick for once. And I tried, and I came to a realization that this game, hey, it's not for me anymore. It was just too hard. I am not qualified to go any further in this game. This is no it for me. That's right. I initially gave up on Final Fantasy X. which is crazy to even imagine now. But at one point in my story, I abandoned the story. This lasted for around a year until I was in my first year at university. Here is when I discovered that there was a Final Fantasy X remaster. Could I do it? While pondering, I looked at some videos on YouTube. The picture was so crisp, and at £20, I could not say no. So I was all guns blazing this time. This time, I'm doing it. Unfortunately though, I was going through my first serious bout with depression. A lot of my time was spent in my room on my own, doing the one thing that made me happy, playing this game. Final Fantasy X became my therapy in a way. Here is when I started to become closer with my brother. He was the one who initially got me interested in playing single-player, story-driven games. Without him, I doubt I'd be sitting here talking into this mic. My brother passed away on his own terms in March of last year. It was an enormous shock, as none of us knew he was struggling. The reason I bring this up is that he always told me to talk about these games on a platform like YouTube or Twitch, but just to talk. I'm not sure why. Maybe because he saw my passion for it. Possibly he wanted to live vicariously through me, because he had such huge love for this too. So I promised I would one day. So this is for him. So after I told him that I was trying the game again, previously failing to finish it, he asked why I couldn't last time. I said because the boss was just too difficult for me. Then he asked the question, wait, were you even fighting in all the battles or were you fleeing? And I could not believe it. A light bulb went off in my head. I can't believe how stupidly I had never even considered this. Of course I can't beat the boss. My level was just too low. If the battle got in any way of the story, I'd usually run from it. This is how I'd always played video games. I was always under the impression that my skill level just wasn't up to par, but no. It was as simple as having to go through every battle, sometimes more, to get those sweet experience points to then obviously level that sphere grid up. Once I realised this, the game was on. I would spend hours grinding to further myself into the story. The music would almost bring me to tears with how beautiful and moving it was. The characters, while at times cheesy, I adored. Every single one of them. I felt as though I was in this world. That Spira had become my safe place, ironically enough. Thankfully, there is no sin in the real world. Looking back, it wasn't the healthiest thing I could have done, but it worked for me here. It got me through some of the darkest times of my life. I could breathe here. I could feel here. I could just be here. I loved Tidus. Yes, I say Tidus, not Tidus. I know Tidus is the correct pronunciation, but I say Tidus. I loved Yuna, Auron, Wakka, Riku, even Lulu and Kimahri. They all helped me in some way, and they all inspired me. Tidus, the confidence, his bravery to be a guardian for Yuna on her journey. Yuna, the absolute fearlessness, going into this pilgrimage knowing what would await her at the end. Auron, just loyalty to the current group and to his best friends, Jack and Baska. Riku, to just be yourself and not care about what other people think. Lulu's obvious love for everyone, even though she didn't like to show it. Kimahri's fierce protection over Yuna, He would do anything for a true guardian. And Wakka, the way he accepted Tidus as his brother right from the get-go, and his extreme determination throughout the whole story. Defeating monsters, leveling up my characters, the story progression and watching those cutscenes was something I never knew I needed. The sense of absolute dread because of what was coming, mixed with the feeling of hope. This game laid the foundation on how I would later look at future games. Not only that, but how I looked at life. Final Fantasy X is the most important game to me. It taught me so much. It healed me. It brought me so much joy. Until I got to that ending. Jesus Christ. I owe so much of who I am to this game. I love Final Fantasy X and everything about it. And you should too. If you haven't played this game, please do. In my opinion, even though it's over 20 years old, you'd have a hard time finding something better and more moving. If you sat through this whole tirade, thank you so much. This was my first go around and I feel incredibly awkward. And I just had to start with this game. Unsure of a timeline on return or what that would be, but again, thank you for watching and getting this far. Cheers.